much was it in the back of your mind and in the back of the O-line's minds that Garrett was one sack away from that record?
You gotta ask them. Wasn't on my mind.
Any communication with DK ahead of this game and while he's out?
I'm not gonna share that with you.
The NFL season often comes down to moments. One throw, one call, one loss that changes everything. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, their defeat to the Cleveland Browns was one of those moments. For Aaron Rodgers, it became something much bigger. What looked like a frustrating divisional loss quickly turned into a league-wide conversation, not because of the score alone, but because of what happened after the game. Rodgers did not hold back. His words were sharp, emotional, and direct. And now the NFL is paying close attention. This was not just another post-game complaint. This was a situation that has put Rodgers under official league review, with possible fines or suspension on the table. To understand how it reached this point, you have to start with the game itself. The Steelers entered the matchup knowing everything was at stake. A win would have kept them in strong position for the AFC North and solidified their playoff path. Instead, the offense stalled repeatedly. Drives died early. Red zone chances never materialized. By the final whistle, Pittsburgh had managed just 6 points. Aaron Rodgers finished the game completing 21 of 39 passes for 168 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. On paper, it was one of the quietest stat lines of his season. On the field, it felt even worse. Cleveland's defense controlled the tempo, pressured the pocket, and forced Rodgers into rushed throws and uncomfortable decisions. But the game came down to one final moment. Late in the fourth quarter, with the Steelers desperate to stay alive, Rodgers launched a deep pass toward Marquez Valdes-Scantling. There was contact, bodies collided, no flag came out. The pass fell incomplete. The Browns took over. The game was over. For Rodgers, the frustration did not end there. In his post-game comments, he made it clear that he believed the officials missed a critical call. He said the contact was obvious. He said it changed the outcome. He said it should have been pass interference. Those words immediately set off alarms inside league offices. The NFL has strict rules regarding public criticism of officiating. Players are allowed to express frustration, but accusing referees of missing calls crosses a line. History shows that the league almost always responds with discipline when that line is crossed. Rodgers did not just mention the play in passing, he emphasized it, he repeated it, he framed it as a deciding factor. That is what triggered the review. According to league policy, public statements that question the integrity or competence of officiating can result in fines or suspensions. The NFL is now reviewing Rodgers' remarks to determine whether they violated those standards. But the officiating comments were only part of the story. Rodgers also spoke about execution, route timing, and missed opportunities. He pointed out breakdowns between himself and receivers. He referenced mistakes that he believed cost the team crucial yardage. While he did not name teammates directly, many analysts felt the message was clear. That is where the controversy deepened. Some former players and analysts argued that Rodgers was deflecting blame. They questioned whether a quarterback of his experience should be focusing on officiating and miscommunication rather than his own performance. Others defended him, saying frustration is natural after a season-defining loss. This divide has followed Rodgers for years. Throughout his career, he has been praised for his intelligence and criticized for his bluntness. He is known for saying exactly what he thinks, regardless of how it sounds. Sometimes that honesty builds trust. Other times, it creates tension. In Pittsburgh, the stakes make everything louder. The Steelers are a franchise built on accountability and discipline. Public criticism has never been part of their culture. That is why Rodgers' comments resonated so strongly. It was not just about what he said, it was about where he said it. Inside the locker room, reactions were mixed. Some players reportedly shared Rodgers' frustration with the missed call. Others believed the game was lost long before that final throw. Coaches avoided direct commentary, focusing instead on preparation for the next game. But outside the building, the story had already taken on a life of its own. National media outlets replayed the comments repeatedly. Analysts debated whether the contact warranted a flag. Former officials weighed in, some saying the no call was defensible, others saying it was borderline. What mattered most was not whether the call was right or wrong. What mattered was that Rodgers publicly challenged it. That is why the NFL review matters. If the league determines that Rodgers crossed the line, a fine is almost guaranteed. Suspensions are rarer in these cases, but not impossible if the language is deemed severe enough. Even a fine would send a message, not just to Rodgers, but to every player watching. The timing could not be worse for Pittsburgh. With the loss to Cleveland, the Steelers now face a must-win scenario against Baltimore. Their playoff hopes hang in the balance. Any distraction is dangerous. Any uncertainty at quarterback is magnified. Rodgers himself acknowledged the pressure. In later remarks, he emphasized that emotions were running high. He did not walk back his comments, but he reframed them as the product of caring deeply about winning. That explanation may not matter to the league office. The NFL has been consistent in protecting officials from public criticism. The league believes that allowing players to openly challenge referees undermines confidence in the game. That belief has driven discipline decisions for years. Rodgers knows this. That is what makes the situation so striking. This was not a young player speaking out of turn. This was a veteran quarterback with decades of experience. That is why many believe the league will respond firmly. Beyond the immediate discipline, there is a broader question about leadership. When a team loses, players look to their quarterback. They listen to what he says. They absorb how he handles defeat. Some believe Rodgers' comments risk shifting focus away from collective responsibility. Others argue the opposite. They say honesty forces accountability. They say pretending officiating has no impact is unrealistic. They say leaders should speak up when they believe something is wrong. That debate is not new. It has followed Rodgers through Green Bay, New York, and now Pittsburgh. What is new is the context. This Steelers team is fighting for survival. Every game matters, every headline matters, and every word from the quarterback carries weight. As the league review continues, all eyes remain on what comes next. If discipline is announced, it will add another chapter to a season already defined by tension and high stakes. If the league decides not to act, it will still leave questions about where the line truly is. For Rodgers, the challenge is clear. He must balance passion with restraint. He must lead without letting frustration dominate the message. And he must do it while preparing for the most important game of the season. The loss to Cleveland may end up being remembered not just for the missed call, but for what followed: the comments, the scrutiny, the consequences. In the NFL, words matter almost as much as plays. And for Aaron Rodgers, this moment could shape how his season and his leadership are ultimately judged. The coming days will reveal how the NFL chooses to handle the situation, but the spotlight on Rodgers will not fade easily. Every press conference, every throw, and every sideline reaction will now be examined more closely than before. For a player who has built his career on confidence and control, this moment tests both. The Steelers do not need controversy. They need clarity, unity, and focus. Whether Rodgers can channel his frustration into performance rather than headlines may determine not only how this season ends, but how this chapter of his career is remembered.